Parents who've attended this workshop have found that it started them on a journey towards building stronger, more meaningful relationships with their children through both developing a stronger connection with their kids and also through teaching responsibility. And by setting aside this time to participate in the, participate in this workshop, you are joining them in this journey. Of course, this is just the beginning of your journey if you haven't seen this before, and I will share some ongoing opportunities at the end. This is my family. My name is Pam Thompson, and I'm wearing the same thing in the picture as I am today. And I am with my daughter there. So I'll tell you a little bit about these adults that are with me, that are joining with me. My son, Aaron, he's in the graduation cap. He is 29 years old, and he was a typical firstborn, compliant and easy until high school. And then he gave us some challenges, but I'm really enjoying him as an adult now. My daughter, Eliana, is with me in the picture. She is 24 now, and she was nothing like her brother. She went from toddler to teenager. Of course, none of them are, right? That second one has to make their own way. But she went from toddler to teenager. She was a challenge from the time she was little. And she is now kind and giving and fun. And last weekend, I spent the weekend with her in New Jersey, and we had a great time together. And she still challenges me. The other two girls on here are girls that I helped raise. Bella is 23, Tavi is 20, and I helped their grandma raise them. They both have extensive developmental trauma, and that has made their lives difficult, which has also made the lives difficult of everybody around them. And I, through all of this, have had many ups and downs as a parent. I wish I had learned the Connected Families framework when my kids were little, and I wish I had learned how to mentor belief in my kids. There's lots of things I would have done differently had I known, which would have made my parenting easier and my connection with my kids stronger. But I'm thankful that God has grace for me, just like he and we can have grace for our kids, and that he's been transforming my heart and my life as I grow in my own identity. And at the same time, as I grow, I'm building my relationships with my kids in new ways as adults. And I enjoy those relationships I have with them. So in addition to being a parent, I have over 25 years of experience working with young children and their parents. And I've also supported and trained teachers both in the United States and in Haiti. And now as a certified parent coach, I help parents who feel overwhelmed and stuck in patterns that aren't working to confidently implement a grace-filled parenting strategy so they can relax and enjoy their families. I've also had the opportunity to teach this framework to teachers so they can use it in their classrooms. I love that the framework works with kids who are toddlers, and it works with kids who are adults and all the way in between. So I have a question for you. What interested you about this workshop? Why did you choose to take an hour out of your time to spend here?
Well, I have an 11-year-old that is, put it this way, very defiant. And I, of course, have a 21-year-old. And so 21 years, I wish I knew it 21 years ago, all this, because now I have a lot of work to make up, because I do not have the skills on how to, I wouldn't have had a defiant child by now, I think, if I would have had the skills. So I'm really needing the help.
And you're in a great spot. You're right. It's much easier when you start when they're younger, but we start where we're at. And it's a great time now. Yeah. Anybody else want to share?
When I was growing up, I wasn't properly disciplined, and my relationship with my parents is really rough now. And I'm 35, and I don't want to have that kind of relationship with my boys. And so I want to learn what I was never taught now so that I can have a different relationship with them as I raise them.
Yeah. Great. Yep. How do we know how to parent except for what we've seen? Mhm.
I have my youngest is from some hard places, and I've gone through, I don't know if you're familiar with the TBRI training, and I've gone through that before, which was amazing.
Yep.
And we've used some of that, but I also just needed some more like refreshment, some ideas and stuff like that. I really wanted my husband to be here with me right now, but he's putting her to bed.
Yes.
So I'm just kind of needing some more ideas. We've implemented some things that have worked, and um, we understand the importance of connecting, especially with kids who have come from trauma.
Yeah.
But we still find ourselves failing. So just some more support, I guess. And I love that this is from a Christian perspective, because it's hard to find stuff that is from a Christian perspective.
Yeah. 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 I love TBRI. And a lot of connected family stuff will sound similar to you, will sound familiar in just a little bit of a different way. And I think that the connected families framework is simpler, easier than TBRI. TBRI is kind of philosophical and educational, and this is more practical. So hopefully you'll find some help with this. Yeah, great. Well, thanks for sharing. I am going to play a short video, and this is Kyle and Jennifer, and they're going to share their experiences with how Connected Families has changed their family, as long as it works. So you guys let me know if it's working. Is it working?
We're Kyle and Jennifer Schrader, and we live in Woodbury, Minnesota. And we have a 6-year-old in Landon, and then also a 3-year-old Ruby.
Landon now is 6, but right around the age of 4.5, we're starting to see some different changes in his behavior that we quite frankly did not know what to do with. So really loud, over the top meltdowns, huge struggles with anxiety, and really difficult positions, sensory issues in terms of tags on clothing and the way things speak to them, and felt on his skin. And we certainly took the gloves off and said, you know, we are great at many things, but we don't know what to do with that. And we just think we need help. We need help as a family, and we need help as a couple. And so to have this roadmap, this makeup will be on our fridge forever. I mean, I found the fridge at all times. Yeah.
I think that all of this was possible through that connected family framework, because connected families allowed us to open up ourselves a little bit to better understand what can we be doing better to help the situation.
It has changed the course of our family.
All right. Oops.
We're Kyle and Jennifer Schrader.
We'll get out of that. All right. So if it's helped them, and it's helped me with my parenting as well, and if it's helped us, it can also help you. So I love the hope that this framework can give to parents. So today you're going to have the opportunity to learn about the Connected Families Framework, which is rooted in biblical truth. It's also backed up by brain science, child development, and developmental trauma research. You're going to learn a few parenting strategies for working with kids, and you'll hear some examples. And then at the end, we'll have some time to discuss your questions, and I'll give you a few ideas of what you can do next. So whether your kids are toddlers or young adults or anywhere in between, we all have struggles with our kids. We love our kids and want the best for them, and yet we're limited by the examples we have received, our experience in education, and our own beliefs about ourselves and others. So I'm going to start by sharing a situation with you that came from a family I coached. As I do, listen for two things. First of all, what might the parenting goal be of this parent? What were they trying to teach their child? And then second, what messages might the child receive that start with "child, you are"? So not what messages the parent wanted to teach the child, but what could the child have heard about themselves? So imagine this situation. You struggle with your child in the morning on a regular basis. There's limited time in the morning, and you need to get started with the day. You had laid out her clothes the night before and expect that she can get herself dressed while you make breakfast. She comes downstairs and she doesn't have socks on her feet. They're not even in her hands. You're frustrated. You say, how many times have I told you? You need to put your socks on before you come downstairs. She grunts at you and sits down at the table. You tell her to go put her socks on, but she just continues to sit there. She sees that you've made eggs for breakfast and she says, I don't want eggs today. I want pancakes. You tell her to stop complaining because today you've made eggs for breakfast. You remind her to go get her socks, but she just looks at you. You're feeling angry and disrespected, but you're in a hurry, so you go get her socks. You give them to her and she tells you that she wants the pink socks, not the white socks. Eventually, your daughter puts her socks on, puts her shoes on, eats the pancake that you pulled out of the freezer, and you're ready to start the day. But you feel awful about the way you talk to your daughter, and you're concerned that she again got her way. And now both of you are starting your day in crappy moods. So in this situation, what might the parenting goals have been? What did the mom want her daughter to learn or to do?
Was she just wanting her daughter to be like fully ready to go before coming down for breakfast?
Yep, she wanted her to have socks on, and that specific mom, because if she went back upstairs, she got distracted. So she just wanted her to be ready for the day. So to learn how to get ready for the day and be responsible for herself. Yep. What else might she have wanted her daughter to learn? Here's a few typical goals that parents have for their kids. They want their kids to learn respect. They want them to be obedient. They want them to listen, to care about other people, have self-control. Do these look familiar? Yeah. And they are good goals. Like this mom, you love your kids and you want the best for them, but often our kids don't hear the messages we intend to send. They don't understand our goals. They hear something else. So, second question, what messages might the child have received? Beginning with the words, child, you are what?
Are you supposed to say you're loved?
Child, you are loved. And that is absolutely a goal that mom wanted, was she wanted her to feel loved. Do you think the child felt loved from that interaction?
No.
Shoot. Yeah. So what could that child have received, that message? If it wasn't, you are loved.
You are not listening.
You're not listening.
You're not capable?
You're not capable. So here's the goals. We went over those. Here are some of the messages the child could have received. You're disrespectful, you're disobedient. There's the not listening. You're irresponsible. You're lazy. You're naughty. You're frustrating. Another one that sometimes kids receive that we are not trying to send is, you are responsible for my feelings. If you got ready on time, I wouldn't get angry and I wouldn't yell at you. And it's not what we want to send, but it's sometimes what kids hear. And we really don't want them to feel responsible for other people's feelings, right? We want them to know that they are responsible for their own feelings and other people are responsible, that we are all responsible for our own feelings. And yet sometimes they hear that. So our goals and the messages that our kids receive often don't align for several different reasons. The first is resentment. If you got ready on time, we could get you to school on time and I would get to work on time. If my kids didn't ruin so many things, we'd have money to take a vacation. If they weren't so difficult, I wouldn't be so tired. So there can be some resentment in parenting. Another reason is it's stressful to be an adult, first of all, and even more stressful to be a parent. And our stress affects us, and it also affects our kids. A third reason is that there's some anxiety about the future. If my child can't get their socks on in the morning, how are they ever going to hold a job? How are they ever going to keep a house clean? And so we go from this 6-year-old, 8-year-old, 10-year-old, and we don't go like 6 months in the future. We go like they're an adult. And all of a sudden we are stressed out and anxious about their future, which impacts how we respond to our kids. And finally, I tried it yesterday. It didn't work yesterday. I don't know what else to do today. So I'll try the same thing today. And it didn't work today either. So what do? I don't know what to do. So we do it again. We're going to come back to the framework that Connected Families has that addresses all of these. But first, what are some of the messages of grace and truth you want your kids to grow up believing? So these are the child, you are loved. What else do you want your kids to grow up learning?
You're loved no matter what
Yeah.
you do.
Yeah. Love no matter what.
You are capable.
Huh. Yep.
And you're valued.
Yeah. You are valued by us and by others, by God. You are valued. So here's some others. Such important messages that we want our kids to learn. They're worth our time. They're an important part of our family. They're fearfully and wonderfully made. They're created for a purpose. All of these things that we want them to know. The messages our kids hear from us impact their lives. And what they believe about themselves has a direct impact on what they say and do. We want to give them a true identity, forming messages, because what kids believe about themselves, especially in correction, during times of correction, has an impact on how they view authority, how they view God, how they view their relationships, and how they view themselves. So we want our kids to learn these messages, and yet most parents focus on getting kids to do what we need them to do. But that doesn't reach anybody's heart. That won't change what's going on inside of our child. And our heart change is what Jesus is after, and it is much more impactful for our family, our kids as well. So not just that their behavior changes, and when we shift our primary goal from managing behavior, focusing on making them behave, to actually mentoring belief, building identity in our kids, we are teaching kids to manage their own behavior, which is actually building wisdom and responsibility in them. And this is what we want for them, right? We don't want to have to follow them around for the rest of their lives, making sure that they make good decisions and do the right thing. So this works because our beliefs and our kids' beliefs lead to our feelings and our thoughts and our actions. And when we change our perspective and when we mentor belief in our kids, we will impact their behavior as well. Well, there's so many of these messages that we want our kids to believe, and they pretty much can be summed up in these 4. You are safe with me. You're loved no matter what. You're called and capable, and you're responsible for your actions. The first two messages are messages of grace and connection, so important. And the second two messages are messages of accountability, and those are equally as important. And these messages, these four messages together, build our kids' identity. And when we can parent from this place, it leads to discipline that connects to your child's heart. So let's start with the foundation. Oops. You are safe with me. Physically and emotionally, which is important because we can only learn when we feel safe. And that is the key thought in this message, that kids learn best or only learn when they feel safe. And that's because that's how God made us. If we are afraid, the thinking part of our brain actually turns off. So in the realistic example of there's a bear chasing you, you either run or you freeze or you fight the bear. You don't think about where the bear lives or if it has babies or what it eats or anything else. The thinking part of your brain turns off, because if you were to think about those things instead of just react, you wouldn't be safe. And our brains don't differentiate between real fears and fears of things that won't actually hurt us. Now, sometimes intimidation seems to work to get our kids temporarily stop the behavior, but what have our kids learned? They haven't learned wisdom, they haven't learned what to do, and they haven't learned how to do things for the right reason. Their hearts haven't changed. They may have learned that the bigger person gets what they want, or if dad's around or mom's around, they better not do that. Or they may have learned to be sneaky and lie about things, but they haven't learned what to do. So when we ask, what's going on in me, before we ask, what should I do, we can help our kids feel safe with us and help the thinking part of their brain work better. So here's a couple questions that we can think about. First of all, what happened to me in my past that I don't want to repeat? And second, what are my feelings about what's going on right now? About what my child is doing or the circumstances of the situation? And third, how can I remain calm in this situation? The Bible says that we were created in God's image, we're fearfully and wonderfully made, and that God has given us a unique identity. But most of us struggle with our own identity. We get our value from what we do, what we have, and what people think about us. This isn't who we really are. And when we try to get our identity from these places, it impacts our mental health and our parenting. We react to our kids out of the beliefs that we have. It's especially ineffective because we can't control our kids. And as we try to control them, they either become more passive or they push back. In addition, it's a big weight to put on our kids when how they act or look or how smart they are even is how we get our value. So we can ask ourselves, how can I be okay even if my child or their behavior is not okay? And out of my strong foundation of knowing who I am, my kids can feel safe. As adults, we're typically fast, we're large, we're loud, especially when we are frustrated or angry, which doesn't feel safe to kids. Even if our kids are bigger than we are, it still doesn't feel safe to them. So 3 additional ways we can feel safe, we can be safe for our kids, is to be slow, so to calm our body, to take some deep breaths, to pray before we go into a situation that's going to be difficult, to take a break when we need it, to get low, which may mean getting down to a child's level. It may mean using a quiet and calm voice, and to listen. First, listening to God, who knows our kids best. God, what's going on? What do you want me to know about this situation? What do you want me to know about my child? What do you want me to do? And second, listening to our child, our kids. What's going on in them? And that might be actually asking them questions to find out what's going on, but it also might be watching and paying attention and listening that way. So there's a story that coaches use of a mom who, after coaching, she decided that when she was angry, she would rub lotion on her hands until she felt calm. She wanted to stop giving hurtful messages to her kids when she was angry, and rubbing the lotion in actually helped her calm herself and make better decisions. And it was also great modeling for her kids of what to do when with their own anger. So they watched her and they asked about it. And when they asked, she said, "I don't want to say unkind things to you because I love you. So I'm not going to say anything until the lotion is rubbed in my hands." Well, coaches were sharing this when they coached. And so another mom heard about it and she decided she was going to try it with her kids, but she wasn't going to say anything about what she did. And her 12-year-old daughter noticed, and she made this cartoon. So the first picture on the left, mom is angry and she's bigger, she's scarier, and it doesn't feel safe to this 12-year-old. The second one, mom puts lotion on. And the third, mom's a little smaller. Mom's gotten down to her own level, to her level, and it says real friendly, like, "We need to talk, sweetie poo." So this 12-year-old noticed what had happened. Well, the first message is, "You are safe with me." The second message is, "You are loved no matter what." You're safe with me. What's going on in me? You're loved no matter what has to do with knowing our kids, loving our kids, enjoying our kids, and figuring out, learning about what's going on in them and how we can connect with them. And the Bible says that when we were Jesus's enemies, he died for us. We were loved with the same, we're loved with the same love when we do right as when we do wrong. The way his love is expressed may be different because our needs are different, but the love is the same. And this is probably true for our kids too. We love them no matter what. And we know this, but do our kids know this? Do they know that they are loved no matter what? Is the way that we're showing it, is it believable to them? So how do we connect with our kids in easy times? What do we do to build the connection? And how do we connect with our kids during times of misbehavior? The key thought in this message is that misbehavior is the golden opportunity for true unconditional love. And when we are able to show our kids love during a time of misbehavior in a way they understand, they can really learn, really believe that they are loved no matter what. A little over a year ago, I coached a couple named Victor and Natasha. They and their 2 young sons were temporarily living with Victor's mother. The energy levels of the 1-year-old and the 3-year-old boys made living in this small house very stressful, especially at dinner time. Victor and Natasha felt frustrated and embarrassed that 3-year-old Micah often threw tantrums and refused to sit at the table. They had no idea how to get him to cooperate. He was misbehaving because he had a valid need to connect with his dad after a day spent apart. But he didn't know how to do that, and they didn't know what to do either. So during a coaching session, Victor made an important decision. He decided to spend a few minutes playing with Micah before dinner every day. And the result of meeting his child's need for attention before he had a chance to act out was that there was a significant change in Micah's behavior, from resistance to cooperation. Micah started joining the family at the table and was even able to answer questions about the day. This small change not only made dinner times easier, but it also strengthened their connection in profound ways. When I asked Natasha about it recently, she said, "Before coaching, we felt frustrated, lost, extremely judged, and clueless in terms of strategies to deal with different behaviors. But now we feel equipped, closer to the kids, and have a better understanding of them. We are now enjoying our boys." So no matter what the reason is, when we are able to show kids love during a time of misbehavior in a way they understand, they have the opportunity to learn that they are loved no matter what. And in addition to making them more likely to learn from their mistakes and more likely to behave well, this also brings the gospel message alive. One technique we can offer our kids to connect with them during a tough time is empathy. Empathy doesn't excuse behavior and it doesn't say that we agree, but it does offer understanding. And anytime someone is going through a difficult time, if we can get an authentic agreement, there is a connection. So here's a couple examples. Oh, it's really hard to share with your brother, isn't it? Yeah. Or it's frustrating when you have math to do instead of playing outside, isn't it? Yeah. Or you didn't really want eggs for breakfast this morning, did you? No. You wanted pancakes, didn't you? Yep. Doesn't say that they get what they want. It just says that you understand where they're coming from. And that can calm our kids down, which we have to do before we can teach them anything anyway. So the first message is that you are safe with me. The second message is that you're loved no matter what. The third message, and those first two messages are messages of grace. The next message, you are called and capable. And the last message, you're responsible for your actions, are messages of accountability. And they are just as important as the messages of grace. In fact, when we do these messages well, our kids hear the message that they are capable, which builds up their identity. So the third message, you are called and capable. We were created to do good works. We and our kids are called to be a blessing to others, to those around us. God has given us the skills we need to do the work he has called us to do. So the questions here are, what are the skills that we can affirm in our kids? And what skills do they need to help them learn? Do we need to help them learn still? And the key thought in this message is that I can find and build strengths in my child, even in misbehavior. And one interesting fact is that most of our skills first emerge in misbehaviors. Our kids use their strengths to do a good job in the misbehavior that they do. And so we can look at the things our kids do wrong, and we can actually see what some of their gifts are. For example, lying is not good, but there are skills that it takes to be a good liar. You need to have a good memory. You need to be creative. You probably care about what people think. Those are good things. Well, my daughter, as a teenager, was really argumentative. She often received messages from me that she was rude, she was mean, she was disrespectful. Probably sometimes I wasn't needing to give those messages, and other times I probably was. But instead of saying, "You are so disrespectful and rude," I could have said, "You are honest and direct and good at telling me what you want," because she was. The way you're doing it is not helpful. Can you find a different way? Or would you like me to help you find a different way to express that? That may be able to happen at the time. It may be a conversation for later. As parents, we can affirm the skills our kids have while at the same time teaching our kids to use them appropriately. We can think about the skills our kids need to learn, and we can plan ways to teach them. And here are a few ways to help you get started. The first is to solve problems together. People aren't the problem. Our kids aren't the problem. Our spouse isn't the problem. The problem is the problem. So how can we look at the problem as the problem together? How can we see things from the other person's perspective? and work together to solve the problem. It might be compromising so that we both get some of what we want. It might be helping our kids accomplish something that needs to be done. So if I want to get to church on time and my child wants to play in the morning, how can we work together to do both? What does that look like? How can we make it easier for you to keep your room clean? What is your plan for getting your homework done today? So those are some things that we can work together on. And when our kids are young or when they're first starting to learn, they're likely to need more support, and we have to have lower expectations. So if their toys are a mess and you tell them to go clean up their room, they probably are going to feel overwhelmed. But you can offer to do it with them, or you can teach them to do one thing, like your shoes belong in the closet, or do you want to pick up the blocks or the books? And we can focus on more simple things to do. And of course, it's always fun to do something fun. So it might be who can make the most, who can get the most clothes in the basket? Can you make more baskets or can I make more baskets? The second one on here, offering two choices that are both okay with you and also could be okay options for your child can sometimes work really well, especially with younger children. Do you want to brush your teeth first or do you want to get your pajamas on first? Do you want to walk next to me or do you want to hold my hand? Do you want beans for supper or broccoli for supper? Do you want to do your homework now or do you want to do it after a snack? And then asking thoughtful questions. Connected Families actually has a whole course on asking questions that is a super good course to go through. And we ask questions for a couple different reasons. One is that lecturing doesn't work. Our kids don't listen to us when we lecture. And asking questions helps them to develop wisdom. So your child asks you for candy before supper, and you, instead of saying, you know our rule about candy, or no, you can't have candy, we can ask them, so what's our rule about candy? An older child who might be having a tantrum or very intense response, we can ask them later, we can say, that was a really intense response. What was going on in your heart when that happened? Or if you want to handle this situation in a way that you will feel good about later, what can you do? The first message was you are safe with me. The second message, you're loved no matter what. The third message, you're called and capable. And the fourth message is you are responsible for your actions. This is the place where we as parents usually want to start, but our parenting is much more effective and more fun when we lay out the foundation with the other three messages first. Well, typically, we as parents either punish our kids reactively or, and often extremely, no screens for the rest of the year. And try to use pain and fear to stop the behavior, which usually just makes them mad at us or teaches them to do it when we're not around. Or we ignore the behavior. Or we give a consequence and then we don't follow through on it. And none of these gives our kids the opportunity to learn. None helps our child grow in wisdom or responsibility. So the key thought for this message is that effective discipline puts the responsibility on the child to right their wrongs. If they have done something wrong, it's their responsibility to make it right. So God made us to have close relationships. And when we disrespect each other, it breaks the relationship. And it's important to put our hearts back together by reconciling and making things right. How do we do that? Effective correction gives our kids the opportunity to make things right. And it also lets us know what skills are lacking and what we need to teach them still. So there's three guiding questions when we help our kids learn to be responsible. The first is, what's the natural impact of the misbehavior? If it's big enough, nothing else is needed. So if a young child, if that 2-year-old touches a hot stove and they burn their fingers, you can take care of that child, make sure that they're feeling better, give them hugs. Later, you might ask, what can you do next time so you don't burn your fingers? But there's no consequence needed because they've learned, hopefully. However, most behaviors don't have a big enough impact for kids to learn. So what action would make it right? If they break something, how can they fix it? Or maybe they need to earn some money so they can replace it. If they're unkind with their hands, how can they be kind with their hands? Do something kind. If they say some unkind words, what kind words can they use? So there was a family who was working on this with their kids, and their 2 kids were out playing on a trampoline. And mom came in and saw these 2 kids. They were actually, the daughter was giving the son a back rub with a massager. And she asked what was going on. Well, there was an altercation. Daughter was pushed the son off of the trampoline or something. And they agreed together that the way to make it right was for sister to massage the brother's back. Kids can learn how to do that. And the third question is, if the child is not either ready to make things right or refuses to make things right, what related loss of privilege could help them to make it right? So it might be something like this. You hear your child, one of your kids, saying something unkind to their sibling. And then they come and ask you if they can go to the park with a friend. And you ask them, I heard some unkind words to your sister. Have you made things right? Yeah, I made it right. Well, would your sister say you made it right? No. Well, I love when you go to the park and have fun with your friend. You can go as soon as you make it right with your sister. So that kind of put it all together. But here's the whole framework. And when you know the truth about your own identity, you can be free to love your kids and enjoy them. That's the foundation. When your kids believe that they are safe with you and loved no matter what, the connection, they are much more open to your coaching and much more willing to learn the skills and the values they will need to fulfill their calling in life and become who they were created to be. That's the coaching. When they believe those 3 messages, there's much less need for correction. However, we all do wrong things. So when correction is needed, you can hold your kids accountable and guide them towards reconciliation and restoration instead of just punishing misbehavior. And this is how we help them grow in wisdom and responsibility. So last fall, I guided a small group through Connected Families Sensitive and Intense Kids course, and I asked the parents what they found encouraging one evening. And Julia, one of the moms in the group, shared this experience with me. She said, "Today, I took my 6-year-old daughter to her music class. Normally, she's chaotic and disregards the teacher's instructions. I felt frustrated and embarrassed by her behavior, but today was different. My daughter was calm. She engaged with her teacher and she followed the instructions well. As I reflected on the difference, I realized it was me. I've been different. I've been investing time in connecting with her, fostering her sense of security and love rather than trying to control her. Recognizing that her performance was not my report card was a huge takeaway from this course. I've become better regulated and equipped with the tools to parent more effectively. God created my daughter and loves her, and I am able to delight in her again and see her for the wonder and gift she is." That was a huge blessing, both to Julia, the mom, and her daughter. So let's go back to the beginning and our morning situation to look at it through the lens of this framework. And this time, look for these for the ways that this mom could be using these 4 messages. You're safe with me, you're loved no matter what, you're called and capable, and you're responsible for your actions. So your child often has a hard time getting ready in the morning. So you do some coaching so she learns the skills she needs to do it. You help her choose her clothes the night before. Before you expect her to do it on your own, you do it with her. Depending on her age, experience, and ability, you may start by physically helping her, or you may just be there to guide her with questions like, what do you need to do next? Or where did you put your socks last night? You make a chart with her so that she can check her work herself. Then, when she is capable of doing it on her own, you can wait for her downstairs. Perhaps mornings are always hard for her, so you know that this could be a tough morning. You make sure that you take a few deep breaths and ask God to help you love your child even before she comes downstairs. That's our foundation of safety. She comes down without her socks. You tell her good morning, you give her a hug, and you ask her how she slept. That's the connection. After she answers, you remind her to check the chart to make sure she did everything she needs to do. She says, I brushed my teeth. I put my shirt on. I put my skirt on. Oh, I forgot my socks. I'll go get them and I'll be right back for breakfast. There's the coaching. Now, there's likely no need for correction, and both you and your daughter are more ready for a good day. So what did you notice? Where did you see that mom using these messages? Where did you see safe with me?
I mean, she wasn't reprimanding her or getting on her case
Mhm.
for not doing or forgetting something. It was just like she already knew what the expectation was, and then she was able to just kind of coach and say, oh, look, here's your list. It looks like you did this and this. That's great. What about this? And then the daughter was able to say, oops, and go back and do it.
Yeah, yeah. So mom was calm first, right? So daughter could feel safe. And then mom was teaching her daughter how to do it on her own rather than making sure she controlled everything. Yep. Yep, you're right. Any other ways that you guys saw these messages in that situation? The love no matter what, it's always good. I think, Kristen, you may have mentioned before the connecting before correcting, and how important it is to connect with our kids. And so I want to come in and I want to take care of stuff. But if I can connect with my child first about something, oh, it looks like you sure are having fun with that. How did you sleep last night? Or that looks like a really good snack. Something where you are actually connecting before you are telling what they need to do. Kids are much more likely to hear from us as well. Well, before we get to some options and some questions, I want to close with a blessing for you. So may you experience compassion and mercy in the challenging moments. May you know God's presence and his joy when he sees you and those precious children of yours. May you be defined by the way that God sees you, and may you be confident that you can guide your children well. May you treasure even the little moments of joy and peace, and may God empower you with the hope and grace that overflows into all areas of your life as a person and as a parent. Well, my greatest joy is seeing parents who have struggled in their relationships with their kids experience hope because of the new skills, perspective, mindset shift, and heart change they have gained through coaching with me in one-on-one, small group, and large group meetings. One mom of 3 I coached recently said this: Thanks so much for coaching and praying. I did not expect to apply everything so quickly. I do feel empowered to carry on. And what I presented tonight is such a small taste of connecting with your kids' hearts through discipline. Some of you may want to continue on and do something further with me, and here's some options that you have. I have a Facebook group that you are welcome to join and ask questions and learn from what I post. I send out monthly emails and building connection that lasts in different ways. And I have a free ebook called Consequences That Actually Work. Also, if you want to take part in the 2-hour Discipline That Connects workshop, which goes into more details about the 4 messages, I have that recorded and you can purchase that from me. And for those of you who really want to have a bigger impact on your family, you may want to do one of these next 2 options. The first is that I am leading 2 small groups through the Discipline That Connects course. And we are meeting for 8 Sundays or 8 Wednesdays evenings, starting September 29th and October 2nd. And with that, you get an 8-week course, online course that you get access to forever. And you get the opportunity of then processing through it with me and with a group of parents, a small group of parents. I have just a couple spots in my Sunday group, and I have more spaces available in my Wednesday group. And finally, I do individual coaching. Most of what I do is online, but I'm also available in person in the Twin Cities. If you're interested in finding out more about that, I do a free 30-minute discovery call. I can do a one-time session. Most families like to do the 4-session package so that you get to go through all 4 messages with me.